And I just wanted to start by saying a bit about the school and why I chose the school, because I think it's really important to understand why we are fighting so hard for our school and why we actually feel really passionate about our school, because we love our school. And when I was looking for a school for my children, I went down the area looking at different schools, and I went to Downhills, and it just grabbed me when I walked in. It has a lovely feel to it, very warm, very creative, very dynamic school, with a head teacher at that time who was on his 4th headship, a very, very highly respected man, and he had the support of all his staff, and you could feel it when you walked into the school. And I chose that school for my children, and part of the reason why I feel so angry at the moment is because that choice is being taken away from me. And I've not regretted sending my children to that school. It is a great school. It might have issues, it might need improving in certain aspects. All schools do. It's in Haringey, it's completely underfunded in Haringey. It has huge issues in terms of the children that are coming to the school and the problems that they are facing in their lives. But it is a really, really strong community school, and that's why I chose it for my children. About 3 or 4 years ago, me and some other parents set up the PTA at the school, and I think that also has been, its focus hasn't just been on raising money, the focus of the PTA has been on community involvement, and it's given us a big amount of capacity within the school to organise, and that has helped us in this campaign as well. The school has encouraged a sense of community ownership. It has events, it has things that go on that encourages that sense of community ownership. So we feel like we are stakeholders in that school as parents, and that's why we feel so passionately about the school. Last summer, I heard that Mr Gove was targeting 200 of the most underperforming schools to become academies, primary schools. And that really, really shocked me, because I'd never heard of primary academies before. But it didn't bother me in terms of my children, because I knew that they were in an improving school. It wasn't in this list of 200. It was above the floor target. It would be safe. Then in October, I read an article in our local press which said that actually named our school and another school, Coleraine Park, as being targeted to be forced academies. I was absolutely horrified. I couldn't believe it when I read this article. Our school had been named as a failing school, and it had been targeted specifically to be turned into an academy. I felt really sick, actually. It felt like the finger of Big Brother had somehow pointed down at this little school. It was a very happy school in Tottenham, and said, right, we want you. And I felt really, really powerless. And I was really worried for my children. I was worried for my children's emotional health and well-being, for how they would cope with this terrible change that was going to be thrust upon them when they were so happy at their school. And that's what really concerned me initially about the whole thing. The staff immediately, who are very, very unionised at the school, the staff are all in the NUT, or they're all in unison. They are very organised, they have regular meetings, and they immediately discussed the issues and voted against having anything to do with this agenda. The governors met. Very strong governors as well. They met, they immediately took a stand against it. The head teacher, really principled man, immediately supported the staff. And that is when myself and other parents got together and just said, right, we need to organise parents, we need to get something going, we need to have a campaign. And at first we sort of felt really lost. And I have to say, contacting the Anti Academies Alliance, and finding out that we weren't the only parents that were facing this around the country. Other parents were being faced with the same thing. It was like a quiet thing going on around the country. We had no idea what was going on. It was all undercover. All this pressure, bullying going on undercover up and down the country. Schools being forced to be academies that nobody knew about. And I suddenly found out this was going on up and down the country. And we organised our first meeting. Our first meeting was huge. We had over 120 people at that meeting. And parents just felt really upset about this because they felt like they knew immediately this isn't about school improvement. You know, if it was about school improvement, why would you do this kind of bullying and harassment and turn a school upside down? It was a very happy school. You'd do what it needed to help it improve, but you wouldn't absolutely turn the whole school upside down to do this. It didn't make sense, and we knew it, and we are not stupid. And I think we've been treated as if we're stupid the whole time in this campaign. We knew that this was a hostile takeover bid of our school. We knew it from the beginning. And this government, we have asked this government right through the campaign to listen to us, to come and talk to us, to explain why it's a good idea for us and for our children to go to an academy. Not one person has come down to our school to explain why it's a good idea. Not one. This 4 months of this campaign, no one has come and spoken to us. So it is clear to us that this is totally undemocratic. Our voices are not being heard. We are having no say in it. And it is absolutely obvious to us that it is just about privatising our school. And we're not going to let our school be taken away from us.
Hello, I'm Sarah, and I'm also a parent at Downhills Primary School. I have 2 sons in Year 4 and in Year 5. So taking over from Karen, we started making a week of action is how we started our campaign. In the first week of January we held a huge meeting. We hosted a huge meeting where Christine Blower, Fiona Miller from the Local Schools Network, one of our local MPs, David Lammy, Alistair Smith. We had a huge meeting. It was so many people came to our meeting, they couldn't get into the car park. They were queuing up down the street. There were people standing at the back. It was a massive success. Everyone in the borough was talking about what was happening at Downhills. And we got a lot of national press, and we were in fact on the news that night. We were all very excited. And this formed part of our week of action. That was our first action. The next thing we did was we recorded our song. Now, we were lucky enough that one of the parents in our school is a composer who specialises in working with community groups and writing music. So at our winter fair, a community fair that we held every year in Downhill School, he facilitated a workshop where the children and any community member who wanted to took part in writing a song together. So we wrote that song, and with some funding from the Musicians Union and also from the NUT, we managed to make a DVD of our song, which we're going to show you at the end. After we all got together after school to record the song, people from all the different communities in our school brought food, and we stayed behind and we all ate together, and there were hundreds of people, and it was absolutely fantastic. Then, coincidentally really, David Lammy, one of our local MPs, managed to have an early day motion speech in the House of Parliament against forced academies. That was attended by many people in our campaigning group, but not by many MPs. And in fact, at the beginning of his speech, our other local MP, Lynn Featherstone, who's a Lib Dem, in fact walked out of the House and wouldn't listen. She was extremely vocal. She spoke very vocally for Haringey schools before she became a junior minister, but now she has said nothing, and we feel utterly betrayed by her. Then that was a great evening for everyone who went along to the House of Parliament, though. I think they really enjoyed being taken to the Strangers Bar by David Lammy afterwards and bought a drink. On the Friday of that week, we had a very, what we would call, Downhills event, and that we all gathered together to hug our school. So we invited along the local press, and we all hugged our school together so we could be shown to love the school. Now, I'll just quickly tell you about what's happened so far in the legal case, because I know I've got to wrap up quickly. While this was all happening, the governors actually sent a letter of claim to the DFE because we were not a school in a category, so therefore could not be forced to become a school in a category, so could not be forced to become an academy. So, I'm being asked to stop. No. We weren't a school in the category, so our legal team sent a letter of claim to the DFE to say we cannot be forced to become an academy. But what happened was Mr. Gove instructed Ofsted to come back to the school as soon as possible to re-inspect the school. Now, the same lead inspector inspected the school who had inspected the school 6 months previously and found the school to have a strong leadership team with good teaching and improving standards throughout. 6 months down the line, this rushed inspection, the school was found to have a weak leadership, and all teaching to be at level 4, I think it's called, and we were put into what's called special measures. Obviously this is an incredibly difficult time, and in fact some bullying went on of the head teacher the next week from a journalist from the Times educational supplement who phoned our head teacher and threatened to leak the report in his paper the next day, forcing our head teacher to disclose the Ofsted result to the parents at the school and to resign. They never did leak the report, but he thought they were going to. So we were then faced with a school without a head, and a terrible time where we didn't really know how we could move forward with this process. But we had a march all the way through Haringey with over 1,000 people came to the march, and then we had a no man's land of 4 weeks while we waited for the Ofsted report to be published and to see what the DFE was going to do, although we did fear the worst. And in the meantime, the governing body were of course doing governing body things and having meetings and discussing school improvements and what we're going to do about getting another head and improving standards in the school. And the governors decided to hold a ballot, and they gave the parents 2 weeks to vote on whether to become an academy or to stay as a community school. And even given that we were a school without a head, that was in special measures, over 90% of the parents voted against becoming an academy.
Hi, my name's Susan. I'm a parent at Downhills too. I've got the unenviable task of being the claimant in our case, because we had to have a parent step forward, because our elected body, our governors, our staff governors, our parent governors were dismissed. So we're speaking out now for the 91% of parents who voted against the principle of academy status, and we're also speaking for our staff who've lost their staff governor, and we're speaking for our governors in exile. We're speaking for our community of more than 1,000 people that joined us on that march, and for the parents from the other forced academies in Haringey. And we're speaking out for the voiceless parents as well. You'll see from the slides how diverse our school is. Many of our parents aren't even eligible for the benefits that bring free school meals. Can you imagine that, being too poor to have a free school meal? And that means there's no pupil premium. And we're terrified that those Roma children, those travelling children, won't be offered a school place if a safe place like Downhills goes. You can probably guess that we love our school. And if you love your school, and if you're lucky enough to be in a community school, tweet it, blog it, get it out there, get it in the press, because the press keep running down state education and community schools. They keep saying they're rubbish, they keep saying the academies are fantastic. And it's our responsibility to get the positive messages out. Because the DFE don't provide us with evidence. We've asked time and again, there is no evidence, and they're treating our children as guinea pigs. One little thing about school improvement, I don't know if people realise, if your school's in an Ofsted category and then you're forced to become an academy, your school closes. So the special measures is gone. The special measures fairy takes it all away, and the academy magic wand brings a new school. And what that really means for our children is that there'll be no action plan. There'll be no excellent head appointed, because there's nobody monitoring that school for 2 years. Now, we're bringing a case which is really about bringing checks and balances to the Secretary of State's powers, We know he's got the powers in the 2010 Act, but our case surrounds on why Downhills has been targeted, because we were never on that list. And we're also raising questions about consultation. Because there's talk of parent choice, but there's no choice for us. We can't choose a community school. We're told we're going to have to be an academy. Also, you may have just heard that we are the enemies of promise, that we're happy with failure. And it's just because we dared to stand up and say we love our community school. Consultation with parents is enshrined in the Academies Act, but he wouldn't even let our governors consult. Our governors asked to speak to Harris, the sponsor we've been given. They said no, they weren't given the chance. They asked to speak to other sponsors. The Secretary of State said no. And then he loaded the IEB, the Interim Executive Board, with Harris representatives. And it's Harris representatives who are meant to consult with parents and say, do you want to be an academy or not? Doesn't sound like real consultation to us. So our solicitor's written a letter of claim, and we've asked the Secretary of State to reinstate our governing body, and we've asked him to do that by Wednesday. Thank you very much. We're very grateful to Conference and to the Union nationally and locally, Julie, for your support. And at the end of the meeting, if you can show your appreciation with a round of applause, it'd be lovely, but the rustle of money isn't even less. Thank you very much.